Well, hello, and welcome to this week's edition of On Deck with Avoya, your weekly travel update. I'm your host, Chris Green, Director of Network Expansion for Avoya Travel. Thank you so much, as always, for making time for our show. And we hope today's episode is going to provide you even more insight into one of the top resources offered by Avoya Travel to those in the Avoya network. As today, we focus on business intelligence and the power that information, those analytics have, and what they can do for your agency to really propel it forward. Wouldn't you love to know which of your clients is more likely to book? Which one of your clients has been the most active in looking at new vacations? I mean, wouldn't that just be a light bulb moment? Well, today's special Q&A coming up will give you some insights into all of this and more when Matt Levy, Associate Vice President of Analytics, joins us for an exclusive conversation. We look forward to welcoming Matt to the show for our Meet the Team segment coming up here very shortly. Wow, another busy week in the travel business, and we'll take a look at some of the top stories in our Eye on the Industry feature. Some of the stories we're following, it's the shutdown of U.S. airspace yesterday caused by a glitch in FAA software. We'll have that reaction. The Hilton Corporation launches a new hotel brand, and U.S. residents help propel Curacao to a record-breaking 2022 for overnight visitors. Those stories all coming up here in just a minute. We're also going to highlight a couple of active promotions that we have today, shed some light on our best-in-class resources for Avoya Travel, and make sure that you have all the ways to reach out and get that conversation started. You really don't want to wait, because here's the deal. Sales numbers for the early part of 2023. Now, I know we're only like 11 plus days into the year, but the early part, it's so promising. We're talking numbers that are doubling the early numbers from 2022 and significantly outpacing record numbers from 2019. So why would you wait? You're really going to want to get connected with an affiliation specialist ASAP, get that process started so your agency can join the #1 host agency in leisure travel. Okay, let's kick it off. This week's edition of On Deck with Avoya, your weekly travel update with a few industry insights and our Eye on the Industry feature. From our friends at Travel Pulse, a story I sourced there. After a system failure with the Federal Aviation Administration, the FAA, that grounded flights across the United States, the U.S. Travel Association is calling on the federal government to overhaul air travel infrastructure. The U.S. Travel Association President and CEO Jeff Freeman issued a statement after more than 7,600 flights were delayed and over 1,000 were canceled due to an issue with the Notice to Air Mission system, known sometimes as NOTAM, N-O-T-A-M. Today's FAA catastrophic system failure is a clear sign that America's transportation network desperately needs significant upgrades, said Friedman. Americans deserve an end-to-end travel experience that is seamless and secure, and our nation's economy depends on best-in-class air travel systems, Freeman went on to say. We call on federal policymakers to modernize our vital air travel infrastructure to ensure our systems are able to meet demand safely and efficiently. Now, this after the U.S. government is already heavily scrutinizing the aviation industry itself. Of course, there was that big debacle with Southwest Airlines, canceling more than 16,700 flights between the 21st and the end of the year in December. The issues were caused by a massive series of winter storms and then complicated by Southwest's outdated IT infrastructure. Now, personally, I think one of the big takeaways from this story, again, from a Avoya Travel standpoint, is that if you're not investing in your technology, that's going to lead to major failures. And we're seeing that with all these air issues. Now, thankfully, Avoya Travel, we make technology a cornerstone resource, and we're very proud of having the best tech offered to our network that you're going to find in leisure travel. And we're certainly award-winning on that as well. Also from Travel Pulse, 2 years after the global pandemic's outset, Curacao, in a little bit of great news, posted its best ever travel year in terms of overnight visitors, propelled in part by record-breaking visitation from those from the U.S. Curaçao's tourism board officials reported that the Southern Caribbean country hosted almost 500,000 overnight land-based, 489,500 and change visitors in 2022, breaking the record of 467,000 that was established back in 2015. Now, the 2022 totals far exceed their original target of 375,000 overnight visitors that they had set last year at this time. Curaçao's most active month in terms of visitors was July, right in the middle of like the worst time of year, you'd probably want to go there. But, that's when everybody's on vacation. And then the country hosted 48,246 overnight arrivals. Their strong 2022 were driven in part by U.S. vacationers. The country welcomed 93,400 overnight visitors from the U.S. in 2022. The first time Curacao has drawn more than 90,000 American travelers in 1 year. And finally, in a story from our friends at Travel Weekly, Hilton is looking to shake up the economy hotel sector with the launch of a premium economy brand called Spark by Hilton. Bill Duncan, Hilton's global category head for focused service and all suites, is quoted as saying, "We saw this glaring hole within the kind of premium economy space, and we felt we could bring the hallmarks that we think are very important within Hilton, which is that friendly, reliable, and consistent quality experience, and that we felt that was missing in that particular segment." Now, some of Spark's premium elements will be colorful and modern design aesthetics, welcoming public spaces with communal tables and rocking chairs, and more importantly, free breakfast featuring a high-quality coffee, juice, and a bagel bar with spreads. Also available at 24 properties when they launch will be a 24-hour retail market, as well as 24-hour digital check-in and digital key room access. Time will tell if this new Hilton brand sparks any interest in the traveling public. All right, are you ready to crunch the numbers and explore what the power of data analytics can do for your business? Then you've found the right spot today. We love to say at Avoya Travel that the numbers don't lie. And today's guest can help us get down to the nitty-gritty of what that all means. So we're really excited. And please help me welcome in our featured Meet the Team guest this week, Matt Levy, Associate Vice President of Analytics for Avoya Travel. Matt, so great to have you on as our special guest for On Deck with Avoya.
Hey, thanks, Chris. I'm super happy to be here, and I've really been looking forward to this since we first chatted about it a couple months ago.
Absolutely. Now, Matt, before we get into your role with the company and how that impacts the Avoya network, maybe we can find out a little bit more about you personally. Can you tell me a little bit about your background and how you ended up working with Avoya Travel as the AVP of Analytics?
Yeah, absolutely. So I've taken a bit of a circuitous journey to get where I'm at today. Besides analytics, my background is in management and law. Believe it or not, I'm actually an attorney licensed in Florida, but I realized that wasn't for me. So throughout the course of my career, I've done a lot of management, consulting across various industries, but always had analytics as a underlying theme in all of them. And then prior to joining Avoya, I was working as an analytics consultant for a consulting agency. And I really just kind of look back and say, I really wish I identified this as my calling way back when, but I just kind of found my way to Avoya, and I could just tell from talking to people right away that this would be a good fit for me.
So it sounds like travel, at least from a career standpoint, is something new for you. When you grew up, Matt, was travel something that was important to your family, or did you have a love of travel before you started with Avoya? Because if not, I bet you developed one pretty quick.
Yeah, I wouldn't say I had the travel bug by any means. Most of my trips were typically beach vacation type places with my family, the Bahamas. I grew up in Florida, so maybe that's not that far of a stretch. And we did take a trip to Europe that I'll never forget. But really, my interest in travel is just kind of developing more as I get older and have kids. And my wife and I have recently discussed doing some more world travel. And so it's super fitting that conversation was happening right before I joined Avoya. And of course, as you suspected, I pretty much immediately booked a cruise to Alaska on Norwegian for 2023 within about 2 weeks of working at Avoya. And just want to give a big shout out to Dave Levine and Ryan Warshaw of Epic Jaunts. Those guys are awesome. I know we got a lot of really great independent agents in our network, but not only were they just extremely helpful and really good guys, but they let me ask a lot of relentless questions and didn't really push back. And that kind of fits the whole theme of maybe I was overanalyzing some of that, but I do like to analyze things, and it makes sense. That's why I do this for a living.
Well, I'm glad they took great care of you, because when they were joining the network, I was the guy that they were grilling with all sorts of questions themselves. So, again, it all kind of works full circle. And it's one of the things that really does, at the end of the day, kind of make the Avoya network kind of extra special. So great to hear they're off to a fantastic start in the network, and great to hear they took such great care of you.
Yeah, great guys.
Matt, for those that might be watching today that are not super tech savvy, help us understand a little bit about what you do in a practical application. Like, can you give me a brief overview of what analytics are and why Avoya Travel spends so much time focused on things like business intelligence?
Sure. And I really wish that my wife was watching today because I still don't think she knows what I do. But at a basic level, analytics is really just about getting insights from data. And, people understand that from a real basic level, but it's more than just the numbers. And I like to look at it like a puzzle. And you start out with this big, messy pile of data, and you've got to turn that into something that users can actually uh, turn into information and knowledge and gain insights from. So it's really coming down to making uh, the data actionable for decision making. And at Avoya in particular, we want to make sure that the business intelligence is telling a story. And so we use it to understand the direction of the company, what went right, what went wrong, and then to understand why this happened. So if it's something that we can fix, we might be able to identify what those levers to push are. Or really, if it's something that's good that was happening, let's continue to do that and figure out how to capitalize and make that part of a regular process. So it's really more than just anecdotal evidence. And I like to quote one of my former professors and say that we want to do more evidence-based decision making and less decision-based evidence making, which really comes down to, let's not try to create data to fit our narrative. You know how sometimes people might say, oh, you can fudge the numbers any way you want to. Well, yeah, sure you can, but that's not going to really get you anywhere except in a big pile of hot water. What we really want to do is use that data to find the right answers. And one of the big goals that I have here is to increase our analytics landscape. So I want to have more interactive tools, make things more self-service for people, give them opportunities to be able to dig in and get their own insights while we help guide that process. But the overarching analytics strategy that I'm trying to implement is really going to come down to everybody having shared goals and objectives around how we're going to take advantage of this data to make an impact, and starting internally, rolling out these BI tools and dashboards to our internal teams, and then over time to the independent agents and suppliers to really share some of that data and be able to have like a collaborative problem solving, because we're all in this together. And if we do that, that's going to make things a lot more nimble and us a lot more efficient at our job.
It's almost a modern way of kind of going back to the whole concept that Avoya Travel's always had, which is this shared success business model, and whether that's sharing internally between teams, or again, as you said, between Avoya and the network, Avoya and its vendor partners. Certainly sharing should not be a problem for Avoya Travel when it gets down to that level.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard that since I started, that in the past maybe there wasn't as much open data, but now that's really starting to become more of a thing. And I really want to ride that wave and do whatever I can to, if I can help the independent agents look good, they're going to help make me look good and Avoya look good, and vice versa. So it's really a two-way street.
So Matt, walk me through like a typical day, what that looks like in your world, some of the projects that you might be involved with, and how that, again, I guess we were just kind of getting into it a little bit, but maybe dive in a little deeper about that net benefit for those in the Avoya network.
Sure. So as I mentioned, one of my big goals for the year is to roll out the broader use of a BI tool like a Power BI. And really, when it comes down to it, BI tools, they're just a tool, but they enable better decisions through things like visuals, or give people access to real-time data, or give you the ability to find answers without having to wait for someone to go look for them or get back to you in their busy day. So I'm building up some dashboards right now. Some of these things are ad hoc. Some of them are part of my broader strategy. Some examples are around marketing insights, brand sales, and even currently working on something around gamifying some of our supplier sales and IA sales and commissions. So stay tuned for that, because we're definitely going to be getting that out in the extremely near future. But the idea is to make it more interesting and more something that's going to actually draw your attention in, rather than just a regular old bar chart that you might gloss over. But as much as we've done in the past, and also another shout out to our SVP of BI, Daniel Rago, done a great job getting the company to where it is now in terms of analytics. But if we want to grow beyond just that descriptive and having pivot tables, and there's more that we can do. And he knows that, and he supports what I'm doing now as well. Like I said, we've done some really cool things up to this point, but how do we take it the next step further? And along with that, we've got a great data science team here doing a lot of machine learning to understand things like how do we improve our leads, where do we reduce loss, maximize efficiency, and things like that. And ultimately, we want to roll out these results to both the network and to suppliers to really, again, help with that collaboration and help everybody improve their own processes, as well as understand their customers directly. Like you mentioned right off the bat, just how do you understand your customers better, and how do we help make them happier and even grow the network of people that are coming to Avoya for their travel.
I mean, it seems to me, Matt, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems like if you were just a small standalone business owner, it would be hard to implement some of this stuff and have, data science, business intelligence, and all of that analytic really work for you. It seems like it's something that you really benefit by being part of a great network like the Avoya network, because again, this is not my wheelhouse at all, but I'm trying to understand it like everybody else. But it seems to me that everyone benefits from the millions and millions of data points that a company like Avoya Travel has access to, when you can use that information to, as you say, create a story and point you towards, again, where the success is, where you're going to have better levels of success. Am I personally starting to understand this a little better?
I think so. One of the things about analytics, I mean, you can do this yourself in some level. And of course, you've got your own personal finances, maybe your company's finance, but to be able to access the data, not just about yourself and your customers, but about your peers and how those things relate to each other, and to help that drive your business, but also to have the insights about what makes a good lead and how do you get those leads into the right people who understand specific things. I don't think I ended up talking to the Epic Jaunts guys by accident. That's part of the algorithm that gets the leads to our agents. And but really, if you're trying to do this on your own, to be able to get those kind of insights, and number one, just the sheer volume of data collection and the effort that goes into that, then cleaning the data, then organizing the data, all the development that goes into it, and then certainly bringing on the cost of the individual resources. You get that all consolidated within the Avoya team, particularly the BI team, but it doesn't stop there, because we obviously work really closely across the entire company.
So one of the questions we had come in during our Q&A is somebody wanting to know just what BI stood for, and that's business intelligence. And there's a reason why not everybody has heard of that, because like a lot of our competitors aren't even focused on the idea of business intelligence. So Avoya, again, very light years ahead of most of our competition. Matt, do you see this as another way that Avoya Travel is able to differentiate itself from the other host agencies and franchise models?
Yeah, I mean, in my past life as a consultant, I would go into companies all the time and just be shocked at how either far behind they were or how far ahead of the curve they were. There was really, even like 1-2 years ago, there was like a huge gap between those two things. And certainly in this industry and working within this type of network, that's something that I think Avoya brings a huge edge, and all the abilities we have with not just our own data, but our relationship with our partners, and everything that we're able to get from our networks and push right back out to everybody else in a way that people can digest it.
Matt Levy, Associate Vice President of Analytics for Avoya Travel, is our featured Meet the Team guest today for On Deck with Avoya. Matt, having been with the company for less than a year, what are some of the other things in your short tenure that you've noticed about Avoya Travel, and maybe how they operate compared to other companies that you've seen in and out of our space that might impress you?
Yeah, I mean, it really just comes down to my experience with the people here, is that there's a lot of smart people with great attitudes, and it starts at the top. Jeff and Mike Anderson are extremely genuine and good people. That showed through when I was interviewing for this position, and they've kind of kept that going all through this time too, and really that flows down through the rest of the business. And I think that energy and that vibe was really apparent any of the times that I've been out to the San Marcos office. I'm based in St. Louis, but Avoya really cares about not just its customers, but also its employees and the IA network. And that's not really as common as you might hope it is. But really, just knowing that the people here are very serious about what they do, and they care about their jobs, but they also have a lot of fun. And it's really hard to not have a lot of fun in this industry when vacations are involved and your whole job is about making people happy. So, I think that's really neat. And I just think that the overall culture really stood out and continues to do so.
I think you hit the nail on the head, Matt. I mean, I've been with the company as an employee for over 9 years now. I was a business owner in the Avoya network prior to coming on board. It's probably the number one thing I tell people when I'm in a conversation about Avoya Travel is just how different it is and how special that it's retained that family feel and that vibe, yet been able to grow and excel and continue to be, a market leader in so many of the things that we do.
Oh yeah, I mean, it was obvious when I started, but also just the way that pretty much when I came on board, I got handed the keys to say, here, go to it, go look at the data, start building things, start breaking things. It's exciting. I mean, there was really no resistance to doing analytics, and I'm seeing that now as I'm trying to roll out a bigger analytics strategy and the ability to get some common threads across our dashboards. And I've had zero pushback from anybody. It's like everybody's excited to do this. They know the benefit of it. And again, that's another thing that you may or may not be surprised, but it's not always that easy to get buy-in at places. And I think that says a lot about the culture here.
So let's talk about, Matt, when you step away from the office and what kind of things do you like to do for fun that just make up you as the person as a whole?
You mean for the times that I actually get out of my basement office?
Of course, right.
I'm not so much married to the work as I am addicted to the analytics aspect of it. But I spend a lot of time with my family. I'm all kidding aside, and my wife's amazing OBGYN here in St. Louis, and we've got 2 kids, 8 and 5, as well as our 2 dogs. But as for me personally, I love golf. Try to play as much as I can. It's unfortunately wintertime here. Not going to happen. And I love live music. Try to go to shows as much as I can. I know you and I have talked about that quite a bit. Jam bands, rock, bluegrass, pretty much anything. And then really, probably my biggest hobby is fantasy sports, in particular, daily fantasy sports, daily fantasy golf, where I've actually built up algorithms and dashboards to look at the data in my personal life. And I've been extremely successful. I don't want to throw out a bunch of numbers, but I've actually made a very large profit off it, including a few big wins. And it's really neat. So practically I'm doing analytics all the time, even when I'm not at work. Like I said, I'm in this office all the time doing something, even late at night. May or may not be related to work. It might be related to what I just told you. But it's really cool that I'm able to do that, and I get to apply what I love to do in my personal life and at work. And it's being able to analyze things and thinking about them in that analytical way is great. The only problem is that I tend to do that when I'm golfing, and it's not a really good time to be an overthinker and be stuck in your head when you're trying to hit a ball.
Exact opposite, right? You
Yeah.
can't be in your head. It's all got to be a natural motion and muscle memory. So you overthink that sport and you watch your numbers climb.
Oh yeah, but I do have all the apps collecting all the data, so I can understand where I need to improve, and that's really what it's all about here for Avoya's business too. It's like, hey, what can we identify that we can either improve on or continue to do?
So a couple of takeaways from that. One, you're not allowed in the company fantasy football league. We're banning you
Oh, I
for
actually
life
did not do that
automatically.
well this year.
And two, I might reach out if I start doing daily fantasy and try to see how that algorithm stuff works. I'd like to get in on a little of that winning edge myself. What about travel, Matt? Anything exciting? You said you got a trip, I guess, coming up to Alaska this year. That's fantastic. Because certainly travel is one of the great benefits of being part of our amazing industry.
Yeah, and my wife and I, have really been good about trying to schedule our regular trips over the course of the last few years. And we go to Hilton Head Island for spring break every year with the kids. We've recently added going skiing in Vail as something that we want to continue doing on a yearly basis. But mostly, I got my countdown clock for that Alaska trip. I mean, we were super excited, got all our excursions booked. What's really cool is that I've talked to multiple people at Avoya about their trips to Alaska, and they kind of gave me the do's and the don'ts and some tips. I look at everybody here for some of those pro tips about actually how to travel. I can tell you the data behind it, but getting on those cruises, I'm like a deer in headlights.
Yeah, it's something special though. Well, my little tip is enjoy what I call second breakfast, right? You get the first one sent to the room, a little juice and coffee and little, donut and that. And then you can, when you're ready, you can go have the full breakfast, but that might just be me.
Yeah,
So Matt,
with
back me up on this. One of the things that we love to say, and I say it numerous times on my show, is that numbers don't lie. Is that a truthful statement? And how best can I leverage that to be a better business owner?
I think it's a truthful statement. I think, sure, like I said earlier, people might try to make the numbers lie, but we work with a lot of honest people, and I think that the important thing to know with data is that it can be complicated, but that you can start simply. And as much as people might knock something like an Excel for not really being a true business intelligence tool, it's still really great. And there's a reason why it's been around to this day, and it doesn't seem to be going anywhere. So, my recommendations for people who are trying to get started and to even just do things locally on top of what we're trying to develop as a network. Keep working on Excel, learn SQL or a BI tool like Power BI or ClickSense or Tableau. And then just really find opportunities in your own business to analyze. Look at finances is really a typical place where a lot of people start, and start with things basic like a time series and looking back at how you're doing now versus other periods, and try to identify if there's some anomalies outside of like the seasonality of travel. And just doing those things on your own. You don't have to be a data scientist to generate insights. It really comes down to being curious and asking a lot of questions. So I go back to my comment about that earlier, and then I said I'm a lawyer by trade as well, and I think probably the best thing I learned in law school is how to ask questions and how to look at things from multiple angles, and that's really helped me in my career in analytics. And that's something that I highly recommend to people to do as well, is to try to approach things from multiple sides. But my number one recommendation is anything that Avoya sends your way in terms of charts and reports, look inside and see. There might be some really useful things. It's been brought to our attention before that maybe someone didn't see something that was in a report that they were looking for, and it was already there. But those things are only going to get better over time and more interactive, easily accessible. But really, that's the whole idea behind your question about numbers not lying, is that we're really, really invested in showing how this data can be used to make an impact on our business.
Upwards and onwards, right? I mean, that's the whole goal of everything. So one last question, Matt, before we let you go. You've been with Avoya about a year. You're still somewhat new to the travel industry, but you're a sharp guy. You crunch a lot of numbers. Are you excited about what you see? Do you think there's a great future for this industry?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I told you I'm in my office quite a bit, and nobody's chained me here. It's because I get really into what I'm looking at. And it's exciting to see how things are changing over time. Obviously, everybody knows business is up. You said at the beginning of this call, people want to travel. We've got a lot of pent up energy that's still out there from the COVID times. And I think, that's happening now. And I think, there's always going to be bumps in the road, like with the airlines, but the data is showing that people want to travel and that people are traveling. And, it may not be in the same way they did it before. Maybe there's more road trips. Maybe we find different ways to get places, but people are definitely traveling, and you could see it in the numbers. But then really everyone here is all in on the analytics, and, knowing that and knowing that we rely on that data, we want to make sure that we could somehow use that data to make sure that we're identifying how to continue that trend. Or if we see something that might be altering it, what can we do to sidestep and make sure that we continue moving forward and growing as a business?
Perfect. Fantastic conversation. I think you helped enlighten a lot of people on this somewhat complicated topic to really understand, Matt. Matt Levy, everyone, Associate Vice President of Analytics for Avoya Travel. Again, Matt, what a pleasure to feature your role today, and we really appreciate your great insight.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Chris. Welcome to chat with you anytime.
Fantastic. Next week, we're excited to have another Meet the Team segment, 2 weeks in a row, as we introduce you to Oswaldo Guzman, brand sales specialist, expert on Norwegian Cruise Lines, and one of the amazing people on the Avoya staff that help our network achieve their dreams. We can't wait to solicit practical advice that you can easily implement in your best practices from Oswaldo when he joins us as our special guest next Thursday at our normal time here at On Deck with Avoya. Really looking forward to that fantastic Q&A segment. So lots of stuff going on. We want to remind you that we do have a promotion right now, and I want to be really clear on this, right? This is a promotion where we're waiving our affiliation fee, but we're doing so for an experienced agent with at least a couple of years in the industry and sales from 2022 that eclipsed over $100,000 in gross sales. We're not trying to hide around that. We're being very upfront. We think those agencies coming on board the Avoya network bring a lot of value to the network as a whole. And we're certainly happy to engage in a conversation to make sure that our resources are a good fit. Put in your request at avoyanetwork.com. We'll get connected with an affiliation specialist, and then you guys can go back and forth and we can get that promotion approved for you. And yes, we're waiving the fee for an experienced travel advisor, again, sales over $100,000 in gross sales. And then on top of that, we also have our fantastic veterans discount, where we honor those in the military that have and do and serve, and their spouses, taking $100 off the affiliation fee. Again, the network expansion specialist, happy to go over all the details in that and the requirements in order to meet the conditions for that promotion as well. And we have the resources. I mean, we talk business intelligence, but we have the resources. And if you're new to the travel industry, one of our fantastic resources is our brand new travel agent education powered by Avoya. This is comprehensive travel education, about 40 hours of online self-paced lessons. You get to take the TAP test through the Travel Institute, so you're going to be certified. There's amazing memberships with CLIA, the Cruise Line International Association, ASTA, American Society of Travel Advisors, so much more, a discount on affiliation when you turn around and affiliate with the network after you completed the education. Education is the biggest foundation of future success. And just like we're all in on the analytics, we are all in on education, because we know that is the best way for you to get the right start in this industry, have a really solid chance of opening and establishing and having a long-term successful business in the travel industry. And there's a reason why you'd want to be with Avoya for all of that, let me tell you, because we have the best of the best, right? I mean, industry-leading resources, live leads, smart leads, support where you pick up the phone and somebody answers 7 days a week. We have an amazing professional development programs, early success, and brand sales like we'll feature next week, events and Avoya National Conference, so many great things. So you want to reach out and you want to get that conversation started, whether you're new to the industry or you're an established professional. We've got resources that meet you no matter where you are in the journey. So please do that. And as long as you're reaching out, and we want to make sure that you stay connected, please do us a favor and give us a like on the social media, whether that's our Facebook page or whether or not that's our YouTube page or our LinkedIn page. If you'd like to stay up to date with what's happening with Avoya Travel, whether you're part of our network, whether you're thinking of joining our network, Whether you're an industry veteran that just watches this show, please give us a like, make the bell ring, notification, all of that fun stuff. We'd love to be able to stay in touch with you. And of course, we want to give you a couple of ways to stay in touch with us too. So reach out. There's my email on there, chris.green@avoyatravel.com. The phone number, again, the avoyanetwork.com website. We can't wait to hear from you. We want to tell our story. We want you to ask your questions. We'll answer those questions. We think there's a great fit that could happen there. So please reach out. Thank you again to Matt Levy. Fantastic conversation today on analytics. Thank you so much to Annabella from Trade Marketing, who did a fantastic job in producing today's show. We can't wait for Oswaldo to join us next week as our featured guest. Until then, take care, everyone.